Many families here at All Saints have a cherished attachment to First Holy Communion. And here it's accompanied for many families by a special service, usually at Maundy Thursday, preceded by a class in which the students and their parents get to reflect on the meaning of this sacrament. And oftentimes as they arrive, they're dressed in their finest. They are accompanied perhaps by extended family and other guests. It's a celebrated ritual here, even for children who've been receiving Holy Communion for a while before they participate in the special service. A less celebrated ritual, but one that I have found still to be such a meaningful part of my ministry here and elsewhere, is Last Communion. This past Thursday, I celebrated Last Communion with Bob. We don't have as much ritual attachment to Last Communion. Even our brothers and sisters in the Catholic Church have ceased calling the anointing of the sick last rites, because the truth is we never really know when someone's last communion might take place. But I have found that oftentimes this ritual celebrated with someone who's approaching death seems to be a kind of permission giving. There's something about that received tangible assurance of salvation, those familiar words spoken, that reminder that God's embrace is there to welcome them into the eternal banquet, that seems to provide people with a sense of release. And so it was for Bob. We had communion on Thursday, whereas First Communion is often celebrated with a large gathering of extended family and congregants, whereas that's First Communion. Last Communion is often just a few people. Whereas First Communion is an occasion to dress in your finest, Last Communion is often where somebody is dressed in whatever keeps them most comfortable. And so we gathered around the hospital bed that the family had brought into the living room with Bob and his wife and his sister-in-law. And even though he was heavily medicated to help deal with the discomfort and restlessness he'd been feeling, as we spoke those familiar words, as I began to say those words of institution and pour some wine from my tiny portable wine into the cup, he wanted to rouse himself. He was trying to sit up, and so we helped him do so. He wanted to speak, and though we couldn't understand, it was clear that something had touched him and moved him about this liturgy, and he wanted to take an active part. His wife told me that that was really his last active day. And I was so grateful for even the opportunity to pour a tiny little bit of wine over his lips and to bless him with the words of our sacrament. So I invite you, friends, as you reflect upon the meaning of the sacrament in your own life, next time you gather at that table, perhaps you can think about those who have gone before, those who have already celebrated their last communion on this earth and are now part of the eternal banquet. But I also invite you, as you look at the children that are gathered there, a child taking communion, that you pray for them. Pray that this sacrament will have lasting meaning in their lives. Pray that it will be something that will carry them through and carry their faith their whole life long, and even in the passage from this life to the next. May all your communion be blessed, my friends. Take care.